Hi, I'm Anthony. I'm from Evotech Pacific, and in today's video we're going to look at scanning this boulder opal with the EvoLite 3D scanner and then importing the data into MatrixGold and creating a setting with that data. So the very first thing we'll need to do is open up the Dual 3D software, which comes included with the EvoLite 3D scanner, and we're going to click on the new project button here. The project name, I'm going to give it a title of Boulder Opal, and in the item number I'm just going to call this Opal 1. We're just going to do a scan target, just a onesie here, a single scan because we haven't got multiple items, and we're going to click on the find scan option. Where it says dictionary here, this is the area on my computer where it will be saved to. So my D drive in the dual data folder, and we see that we have an exposure gain here. You can see in the bottom left hand corner, it's a preview of the piece itself that we're about to scan. You can increase or decrease that slider just to raise the exposure or reduce it. Once you see the red there, you know that there's too much exposure, so we kind of want to dial that back to something about there. And when we're happy with that, I'm going to click on start scan. So the first thing we'll do is we're going to just trim this plane up. We don't want to capture any of the fixture data or anything like that. We really only need to capture the data of the stone on top. So we're going to raise this slider up, and I'll take that to say about there. And this is blue tack that's holding the stone in place. We can remove that at the end of the scan. So I'm going to click on save for that, and then the EvoLite will go through and do its scanning. Okay, so now that the EvoLite has finished its scan, we can have a look and see what we've captured, which this is pretty good. So for the top side here, and what we're going to do is delete all of the excess that we don't need. So this is all the blue tack here that's holding the opal in place. And on the right hand side here, we've got a few different options. We've just got our normal lasso, we've got a square or polyline lasso, and we can also color in or paint that selection. I'm just going to stick with the normal selection there, and what I'm going to do is just grab this. And it doesn't really matter too much if we cut a little bit of the underside of the opal off, because we're about to do a scan of that underside anyway. So once that's all highlighted red, we're going to click on the garbage can here and just make sure that we get rid of any of that stuff on the other side. We don't need any of that. So get rid of all that and trash it. And that leaves us with that. So what we'll do next is we're going to take the opal off and turn it around, and then scan the bottom of the opal. So I'll go ahead and do that. Give the bottom side a spray with the A-Sub Blue scanning spray that we use, and yeah, we'll continue on with the scan. Okay, so we've swapped the stone, or turned it upside down I should say, and we've given it a spray with the A-Sub Blue, and once I'm happy with that, we're going to click on the start scan, and it will scan the underside of the boulder opal, and we'll continue once that scan has completed. Okay, so that's finished that scan. It's just registering everything now, and just as we did beforehand, once that's completed, we'll delete the underside of this, just getting rid of any of that blue tack there. So zoom in a little, just get all this stuff. Like I said, it doesn't really matter if we capture a little bit of the opal there, because when it comes to aligning, we'll have that top part of the scan anyhow. Get rid of that there, and make sure we get rid of that. Alright, so we can get rid of that there. Alright, so I'm pretty happy with that scan. That looks pretty good. I might just get rid of this stuff here. It makes it a little bit cleaner for us. Alright, so once I'm happy with that, I'm going to click on the tick to align the pieces. And the new software from Thunk, the Dual 3D version 2, attempts an automatic alignment. Now, most of the time this works really well. Some smaller stones, it doesn't necessarily work so well because they're so small, and you just have to do a manual alignment then. And if that's the case, then we can take that through that process. But generally speaking, most of the time the automatic alignment is okay, except for this time. The alignment failed, as we can see here. So we've got the option to cancel that, so we'll cancel. And then what we're going to do is, in this one window, you can see number 1 is highlighted, that's the first scan, and number 2 will be in this window here. And so what we've got to do is manually align these two parts simply by placing points, minimum of 4 points around the actual opal itself. So first thing I'm going to do is place a point here. So there's one red point there, or one red sphere there, and move that around here, and I'm going to place one there. Come around to this side here, and I'll place an orange sphere there. Where's that? Right on pretty much that corner there, so I'll place that there. We'll place one there, that'll be a yellow sphere there, and that'll be up there, and place one pretty much in the middle there on the opposite side, about there. Alright, and then we'll hit the align button, and we can see that's what it's given us, which is pretty good. That works for us. We should be able to clean that up a little bit more. But there we go, that's aligned. It's just doing its final adjustment there, and that all looks pretty good to me. Alright, so once we've done that, we can then click on the confirm button. That'll confirm it. There is our piece ready to go. And we'll zoom in a little bit there just so we can see what's going on. Alright, now you might say, look, it looks a bit messy. That's because we haven't done anything to it. This is just the raw data. So what we're going to do now is we're going to increase or decrease the mesh quality. Mesh quality at 6, I'm going to leave that where it is. Fillings denoise, I want to denoise it up a little bit, so probably around 3 there. It's kind of experimental with what you do with the wrapping of this. Smoothen, you can smooth that up, as high as 50 if you want to. Just remember that the smoother it is, the bigger the file's going to be. So we'll take that to say about 25, I guess, halfway. And the decimate, if we decimate this, then it's going to reduce the size of the file. With something like this, it shouldn't matter too much, if we decimate it about 50% or so, because it's really only, a fairly small piece. There's not a lot of geometry to it, so we should be okay with that. We'll click the wrap button there, and what will happen is the data will register and the wrapping process will begin. Now, depending on the geometry of whatever it is that you're scanning, and I guess how complex it is, will determine how long this wrapping procedure takes. As you can see, we're at about 40% now. It's only been I don't know, maybe 20-30 seconds or so. So I'd imagine this will be finished in about another minute, and then we should be good to go. Okay, so that wrap has now completed, and let's have a closer look at where this is sitting here. So if we rotate the piece around, you can see it's much smoother, and that's going to give us some really good data to play with in MatrixGold. So I'm going to then click on the save button if I want to. You can also go to the mesh optimize button here. If you do that, it's just going to smooth things out for you. And this is some really cool software that Thunk 3D have come up with that really helps to optimize the data in the mesh itself. If we come to the Mesh Optimize button here and click on that, it'll give us some tools here that you can see. We can smoothen out, we can remove any of the spikes if there happen to be any here, and we can also decimate it even further than we need, if we need to. So I'm going to click on the Smoothen button here, and you can see we've got a brush that we can use over this, and that'll just help smoothen out that top surface there. And just paint that all the way like that, and let the software do its thing. And you know, you'll notice the difference. We can increase the size of the brush if you want to, and you can keep going over it, and that'll just smoothen it out even more. But you know, that to me is pretty well okay. I'm pretty okay with this. It's not going to be a piece that I'm going to be 3D printing. I'm only using it for basically for the shape of it, so I can create a setting. So I'm okay with that. I'm going to click Save and Quit, and just to make sure that it's saved, I want to make sure that I click on the path there, and that'll save to that part of my folder, and I'm all good to go. So let's open up MatrixGold and create a setting for the piece. Okay, so now that we've imported the stone into MatrixGold just by using the File and Import button, and then obviously selecting the STL file, there are a couple of different ways that we can create a setting from something like this. So what I want to do first is I'm going to switch to my red layer color just so we can see what we're doing. And the first way I'm going to create a setting on this is I'm going to go to my curve menu. I'm just going to grab a line first of all. So I'm just going to grab a line and place my curve about here. Hold down Shift to engage ortho, and then grab that curve, and I want to just drag that out a little bit. Go back into the front viewport here. So we've got our curve here, and we can increase the height of that curve, or where it's sitting exactly on the stone or against the stone. And once I'm happy with that, then we can use a tool in the curve menu all the way at the end there, under the From Object option or tool, and we can go to Project. The command line here will ask us to select the surface, polysurface, sub D, or mesh to project onto, which is going to be our opal there, and then we're going to hit enter, and that will project that curve directly through that data there. And think of a laser beam. Basically that's what it's doing, it's cutting right through it. So I'm happy with that, and we can delete this line now. We don't need that anymore. And we can also turn off the mesh. We'll keep it there, but we won't delete it altogether. What we're going to do is we're going to rebuild this curve because there are so many points. And what's happened is, if we bring back that that opal and then wireframe it, which will probably take a little bit of time, and then zoom in, you can see that this mesh is made up of tiny little triangles. All right, and what's happened is when I've projected that curve onto this mesh, it's done it, but every single one of these areas is a point from point to point to point to point to point to point. And if you can imagine how many points there are around this, you know, it's probably in its well and truly in its thousands. So that's why we've got to rebuild the curve, because if we have a curve that's got that many points in it, the bezel builder simply will not work. So we're going to turn off that mesh just for the moment. We're going to grab our curve and we're going to type in rebuild. Now, yeah, here we are. It says here the current point count is 3,969 points. And it's recommending 8. Well, 8's not going to cut it for us, because if we simplify it too much, then it's going to give us a shape that is well and truly different from what we currently have. But if we were to take that up to, say, maybe 30 points instead, it's going to give us a preview of what it's done, and that's pretty good. That works. So I'm going to hit OK to that. Now we've got a curve here that's going to work really well with the bezel builder. So what we're going to do next is we'll bring out in our settings menu, we'll go to our bezel builder here, and the command line is going to ask us for the gem. We don't have a gem because we've got scan data, and scan data is not a block instance, so therefore we're going to use a closed planar curve, which is going to be this guy here. So we're going to click on that and then hit enter. What that's going to do is give us a bezel. The problem is that the bezel is upside down, so we can flip that curve by coming across to the right hand side here and click on flip, and that's going to give us our bezel the right way around. Now you can create your bezel as you wish. I would probably recommend increasing that seat height a little bit. You'd want to maybe take that seat angle up so that it's kind of flatter. And you all know how the bezel builder works. We can kind of increase or decrease that thickness down, and obviously the height. Take that up to wherever you need to. I guess if you're cutting a finger hole through it, you'd want to keep it down so you can cut that without any issue, and so on and so on. Now once you're happy with that, simply hit enter and shade it up. You can see what you got. So if we go to maybe that one there, and so we have something that looks like that. Now that's one way of using the scan data. Let's create a curve a different way. So we're going to grab this little guy here and delete it. And the other way that we can create a curve around a scan piece, that project way with the curve, that works for most pieces, like things like stones or things, but sometimes you'll have a piece that's really quite complex and you need an outline of that mesh. So there's a tool that we can grab. We're going to go into the top viewport for this. We're going to type in mesh outline and click on that. It'll ask us for the mesh, which is that one there, and hit enter. And that's going to create an outline of this mesh. Now you do have to be in the correct viewport in order for this to be able to work. If you're in a different viewport, it'll create a mesh but based on that particular viewport there. So this here has created this particular curve here, and we can have a look at that. Same situation will occur. You're going to have something there that has probably thousands of points, and if we type in rebuild, we'll be able to see 2,622 points. Now I'm going to leave that 30 there and hit OK, and yep, there the process is the exact same as before. We can select our curve there, and we can we won't go to there, we'll go to the settings, go to bezel, and there you see it's created that bezel there for us. So it's as easy as that. So I hope that helps. If you've gained some information from this, then feel free to subscribe to the Evotech Pacific YouTube channel. It really does help us out, and make sure you click on the little bell icon. That'll notify you of any future uploads that we create for the channel itself. Alright, thanks for watching.